Most men believe strength is obvious. They think it looks like a hard body, a loud voice, a high income, or the ability to dominate a room. But those things can disappear in a single season. Money can be lost, status can collapse, confidence can break the moment life stops cooperating. Real strength is quieter. It is the ability to remain steady when someone insults you. It is getting out of bed when motivation is gone. It is keeping your word when no one is watching. It is choosing discipline while everyone else chooses comfort. It is controlling yourself when your emotions are begging to control you. That is why two men can face the same pressure and become completely different people. One becomes reactive, bitter, distracted, and dependent on approval. The other becomes calmer, sharper, more disciplined, and harder to shake. The difference is rarely talent, it is rarely luck, and it is almost never personality. The difference is habit. The Stoics understood that character is not built in dramatic moments alone. It is built through repeated choices so small that most people ignore them. Marcus Aurelius did not become steady because life treated him gently. Epictetus did not become free because his circumstances were easy. They became strong because they trained their minds every day. In this video, you will learn 7 Stoic habits that separate strong men from everyone else. Not habits that make you look powerful, habits that make you difficult to manipulate, difficult to discourage, and difficult to break. And once these habits become part of your identity, you will stop asking how to feel stronger. You will become the kind of man who remains strong, especially when life gives him every reason not to. That is the line most men never learn to cross. If you study the lives of history's strongest men, one pattern appears again and again. They did not become resilient because they avoided hardship. They became resilient because hardship became their training ground. Every setback revealed another weakness to strengthen. Every insult exposed another emotion to master. Every challenge became another opportunity to practice self-command. This is the foundation of Stoicism. The Stoics never promised a comfortable life. They promised something far more valuable: the ability to remain unchanged by circumstances you cannot control. Their philosophy was never about suppressing emotions or pretending pain does not exist. It was about refusing to let pain become your master. Marcus Aurelius ruled an empire while facing war, betrayal, plague, and constant uncertainty. Yet his private journal rarely focused on changing the world around him. Instead, he returned again and again to the same question: how can I govern myself better today? That question still separates strong men from weak ones. Modern culture teaches you to chase better circumstances. Stoicism teaches you to become a better man regardless of your circumstances. One approach creates dependence, the other creates freedom. This leads to a simple but powerful truth. Strong men are not separated by intelligence, genetics, money, or natural confidence. Those advantages may help, but they are never enough to sustain real character. What truly separates them is the collection of habits they repeat when nobody is watching, when nobody is applauding, and when nobody would notice if they chose the easier path. Every habit is a vote for the person you are becoming. Repeated often enough, those votes become your identity. The 7 habits you are about to learn are not isolated techniques or motivational tricks. They are connected expressions of one single principle. Every disciplined action strengthens your character, and every undisciplined reaction quietly weakens it. Master these habits consistently, and strength will stop being something you perform. It will become who you are. By the end of this video, you will not simply understand Stoicism a little better. You will see strength differently. You will recognize why some men remain calm while others panic, why some continue moving when everyone else quits, and why genuine confidence never needs to announce itself. More importantly, you will leave with 7 practical habits that can be practiced every day, regardless of your age, career, or current situation. None of these habits require exceptional talent. They do not require perfect discipline from the beginning. They only require a willingness to repeat the right actions long enough for them to become part of your character. That is how real transformation happens. Not through one emotional speech, not through one productive morning, but through hundreds of ordinary moments that most people waste without realizing their importance. If building that kind of quiet strength is the journey you want to continue, subscribe, and become part of this community. Every video is designed to help you develop the mindset, discipline, and inner stability that Stoicism has taught for centuries. Now let's begin with the first habit, the one that determines whether you control your emotions or spend your life being controlled by them. Number 1, they control their first reaction. Every difficult situation begins with a test that almost nobody notices. It lasts only a few seconds. Someone questions your ability during a meeting. A stranger speaks to you with disrespect. A friend betrays your trust. Your partner says something that hurts more than you expected. Before logic has a chance to speak, your emotions rush to take control. Your heart races. Your breathing changes. Your mind immediately begins preparing a defense. Most men believe the battle starts with what they say next. The Stoics believed it started much earlier. It begins with the first reaction. Many lives are quietly shaped by reactions that last less than 10 seconds. One angry reply destroys years of trust. One emotional decision ruins a career opportunity. One impulsive message ends a relationship that could have been saved. The greatest damage often comes from moments that feel too small to matter. That is why Stoicism places enormous importance on the space between an event and your response. The event belongs to the outside world. Your response belongs to you. Imagine a skilled captain sailing through violent waves. He cannot command the storm to disappear. He cannot stop the wind from pushing against the ship. But he understands something more important. As long as he keeps both hands firmly on the wheel, the storm never becomes the captain. Your emotions are the storm. Your reason is the wheel. Marcus Aurelius practiced this discipline every single day. Although he ruled the largest empire on earth, he constantly reminded himself that other people's ignorance, anger, or selfishness could never force him to abandon his own character. His journal was not filled with complaints about difficult people. It was filled with reminders to remain patient, rational, and just regardless of how others behaved. That is why his influence survived long after his empire disappeared. Today, the same challenge exists in different forms. Social media trains people to react instantly. News headlines are designed to provoke outrage before understanding. Every notification competes for your emotions because emotional people are easier to influence than thoughtful people. Strong men refuse to become emotionally programmable. They slow the process down. When something provokes you today, resist the urge to answer immediately. Take one deep breath. Relax your shoulders. Count slowly to 5 if necessary. Then ask yourself one question. What decision will I still respect tomorrow? That simple pause changes everything. Instead of becoming another emotional reaction in someone else's story, you become the author of your own behavior. At first, this practice feels unnatural because your habits have been built over many years, but every pause strengthens your self-control. Every calm response weakens the impulse to react without thinking. Eventually, people begin noticing something unusual about you. You are no longer easy to manipulate. Insults lose their power. Pressure loses its urgency. Chaos loses its ability to pull you away from your principles. This is the first habit that separates strong men from everyone else. They understand that self-control is not proven after emotions disappear. It is proven while emotions are still present. The strongest man in the room is rarely the loudest. More often, he is the one who keeps possession of himself when everyone else has already surrendered theirs. Master this habit, and you build the foundation for every other Stoic habit that follows. Because before you can keep promises to yourself, you must first learn to stop your emotions from breaking them. Number 2, they keep promises to themselves. Think about the promises you have broken recently, not the promises you made to other people, the ones you made to yourself. You said you would wake up earlier, but pressed the snooze button. You promised to exercise, but convinced yourself to skip one day. You planned to read instead of scrolling through your phone, but an hour disappeared without you noticing. None of these decisions seemed important in the moment. That is exactly why they were dangerous. Most men believe confidence is something they either have or they don't. The Stoics saw confidence differently. Real confidence is earned every time your actions prove your words can be trusted. The fastest way to lose respect for yourself is not through failure. It is through repeated self-betrayal. Every time you abandon a commitment you freely chose, you quietly teach your mind an unfortunate lesson. My own word doesn't matter. After hearing that lesson enough times, discipline becomes harder because your mind no longer believes you. Motivation fades quickly because trust has already been broken. Eventually, you stop setting meaningful goals, not because they are impossible, but because you no longer believe you will follow through. Imagine trying to build a stone bridge across a river. Every promise you keep is another solid stone placed into the foundation. Every promise you break removes one. From a distance, the bridge may still look complete, but eventually one missing stone becomes a collapse you never expected. Character is built exactly the same way. Epictetus understood this deeply. Born into slavery, he had almost no control over his external circumstances, but he insisted that one thing always remained within his control, whether his actions agreed with his principles. Long before he became one of history's greatest Stoic teachers, he practiced keeping small commitments to himself. Those small victories became the foundation of extraordinary inner freedom. Strength rarely begins with dramatic achievements. It begins with ordinary consistency. If you want to become stronger, stop making huge promises that depend on perfect motivation. Instead, create commitments that are impossible to misunderstand. Read 10 pages. Exercise for 20 minutes. Wake up when the alarm rings. Keep your workspace clean. Finish the task before seeking entertainment. These actions seem ordinary, yet they produce an extraordinary result. Every completed promise becomes evidence. Evidence becomes trust. Trust becomes confidence, and confidence built through action is almost impossible for other people's opinions to destroy. One day, you will notice something remarkable. You stop negotiating with yourself. You simply do what you decided to do. That is the moment discipline stops feeling like punishment and starts feeling like freedom. Because freedom is not doing whatever you feel like doing. Freedom is no longer being controlled by whatever you happen to feel. Master this habit, and your relationship with yourself changes forever. Once your own word becomes unbreakable, you are prepared for the next Stoic habit. The willingness to become stronger by deliberately embracing discomfort instead of constantly avoiding it. Number 3, they train themselves to be comfortable with discomfort. Most men spend their lives trying to eliminate discomfort. They avoid difficult conversations. They postpone challenging work. They choose entertainment over learning, convenience over discipline, and immediate pleasure over long-term growth. At first, these choices seem harmless. After all, everyone deserves a break. The problem is that comfort slowly becomes a prison. The more comfortable your life becomes, the less capable you are of handling anything uncomfortable. Small inconveniences begin to feel like major obstacles. Minor criticism feels like a personal attack. Ordinary setbacks suddenly appear unbearable. This is why many people break under pressure they should have been able to handle. Not because life became harder, because they became softer. The Stoics deliberately practiced voluntary discomfort because they understood a truth that modern society often ignores. Comfort is enjoyable. Dependence on comfort is dangerous. Imagine a blacksmith forging a sword. Every strike of the hammer looks violent. Every moment inside the fire appears destructive. Yet without heat and pressure, steel never becomes strong enough to survive battle. Character is forged the same way. The difficulties you avoid today often contain the strength you wish you had tomorrow. Seneca regularly practiced living with less than he could afford. Even though he possessed great wealth, he intentionally wore simple clothing, ate modest meals, and accepted temporary discomfort. He wanted to remind himself that happiness did not depend on luxury. If fortune disappeared, his peace of mind would remain. That lesson is even more valuable today. Modern life constantly promises greater convenience. Food arrives without cooking. Entertainment arrives without effort. Answers appear without deep thinking. Everything becomes faster, easier, and more comfortable. Yet anxiety continues to rise, because convenience cannot replace resilience. If you never challenge yourself voluntarily, life will eventually challenge you without asking permission. Start small. Take the cold shower. Wake up before you feel ready. Walk instead of driving when possible. Choose the difficult conversation instead of avoiding it. Finish the hard task before rewarding yourself. None of these actions are impressive by themselves. Their power comes from repetition. Every time you willingly enter discomfort, your mind learns a powerful lesson. I can handle more than I thought. That belief changes the way you approach every future challenge. Soon, the situations that once intimidated you begin to feel ordinary. Pressure no longer surprises you because you have practiced meeting it on your own terms. If this is the kind of man you are becoming, comment, "I choose to be comfortable with everything," because this journey does not end with becoming comfortable in discomfort. It continues with becoming completely independent of something even more dangerous: the opinions of other people. Number 4, they protect their mind from other people's opinions. There is an invisible prison that traps millions of men. It has no walls, no locked doors, no chains, yet it controls what they wear, what they say, what they pursue, and even who they become. That prison is the need for approval. Many men spend years trying to build a life that looks impressive instead of one that feels meaningful. They hesitate to start a business because someone might laugh. They stay silent because they fear sounding foolish. They remain in unhealthy relationships because they worry about being judged. Little by little, they surrender control of their lives to people who are not living them. The Stoics warned against this long before social media existed. If your peace depends on another person's opinion, then your peace never truly belongs to you. Imagine carrying a mirror everywhere you go. Every few minutes you stop, hoping someone will tell you what they see. If they smile, you feel valuable. If they criticize you, the mirror suddenly becomes unbearable to hold. Eventually, your entire identity depends on reflections that constantly change. Most people live exactly this way. Strong men eventually put the mirror down. Epictetus reminded his students that if someone speaks badly of you, they are responding to the version of you they believe exists, not necessarily the person you truly are. Their judgment belongs to their mind, not yours. That idea is deeply liberating. People will misunderstand you. Some will underestimate you. Others will dislike you for reasons that have nothing to do with your character. Trying to control every opinion is like trying to stop the wind with your hands. It cannot be done. Instead, ask yourself a different question. Have I acted according to my values? If the answer is yes, then let the opinions go. Not because criticism never matters, but because your principles matter more. This does not mean ignoring wise advice. Stoicism never teaches arrogance. It teaches discernment. Listen carefully to people who genuinely want your growth. Release the voices that only want your attention. As you practice this habit, something unexpected happens. Your decisions become clearer. Your confidence becomes quieter. You stop performing for strangers and begin living according to your own standards. That is when respect begins to appear naturally, not because you chased it, because you stopped needing it. The strongest men are not fearless because everyone approves of them. They are fearless because approval is no longer the foundation of their identity. Once your mind is no longer controlled by other people's opinions, you are finally ready to master the next habit. The habit that separates disciplined men from emotional men every single day. Number 5, they choose discipline over mood. Every morning, you wake up with two voices inside your mind. One asks what you feel like doing. The other reminds you what needs to be done. Most men spend their lives obeying the first voice. If they feel motivated, they work. If they feel inspired, they exercise. If they feel confident, they take action. But feelings are unreliable leaders. They change with the weather, your sleep, your stress, and even what happened 5 minutes ago. If your discipline depends on your mood, your future will depend on your mood as well. The Stoics refused to live this way. They understood that emotions are valuable messengers, but terrible commanders. Imagine a train traveling across a country. The tracks determine where it goes. The weather changes every hour. Sometimes there is sunshine, sometimes heavy rain, sometimes thick fog. Yet the train keeps moving because it follows the tracks, not the weather. Discipline is your track. Mood is your weather. Confusing the two is one of the biggest mistakes a man can make. Marcus Aurelius often wrote to himself before beginning another difficult day as emperor. He did not wait to feel inspired before fulfilling his responsibilities. He reminded himself that he had been born to perform the work of a human being. Just as bees make honey and trees bear fruit, a man fulfills his nature by doing what is right, regardless of how he feels. That perspective changes everything. Instead of asking, "Do I feel like doing this?" ask, "Is this the right thing to do?" One question serves comfort, the other serves character. This habit becomes especially important when life feels unfair. There will be mornings when you feel exhausted, days when progress seems invisible, weeks when your effort appears to produce no reward. Those are the moments that separate ordinary men from exceptional ones. Anyone can stay disciplined when success arrives quickly. Very few remain disciplined when success is silent. Build systems instead of depending on motivation. Exercise at the same time every day. Read before checking your phone. Finish your most important task before chasing distractions. Remove unnecessary decisions wherever possible. The fewer negotiations you have with yourself, the stronger your discipline becomes. Eventually, something remarkable happens. You stop asking whether you are motivated. You simply become the kind of man who keeps moving. Your identity changes before your results do. And once your identity changes, your results eventually follow. Strong men are not admired because they always feel confident. They are admired because they continue acting correctly even when confidence disappears. That is the quiet power of discipline. It allows you to remain consistent while everyone else is waiting for a feeling that may never arrive. Master this habit, and you are ready for something even more difficult. Learning how to stand completely alone without ever feeling empty. Number 6, they become comfortable standing alone. One of the greatest fears most men never admit is not failure. It is standing alone. They stay in the wrong friendships because loneliness feels frightening. They remain in relationships that slowly destroy their peace because leaving seems more painful than settling. They silence their convictions because disagreement risks rejection. Little by little, they trade authenticity for acceptance. The Stoics believed this was one of the highest prices a person could pay. If you abandon yourself in order to belong, you may gain company, but you lose your freedom. Imagine a great oak tree standing on an open hillside. Every season brings something different. Strong winds, heavy rain, scorching sunlight, snow. The tree never asks the weather for permission to remain rooted. It bends when necessary, but it never abandons the ground that gives it strength. A man with strong principles lives the same way. His values become his roots. The opinions of the crowd become nothing more than passing weather. Cato the Younger embodied this kind of courage. Even when political pressure surrounded him and compromise promised safety, he refused to betray the principles he believed were right. Many opposed him. Many mocked him. Yet history remembers his integrity far more than the popularity of those who stood against him. His example teaches an uncomfortable truth. Being respected is not the same as being accepted. Sometimes they are complete opposites. Modern life constantly pressures you to fit in. Algorithms reward conformity, trends reward imitation, crowds reward agreement. But greatness has rarely been created by men who simply followed the crowd. Spend time alone without rushing to fill every moment with noise. Walk without headphones. Eat a meal without scrolling through your phone. Sit quietly with your own thoughts for 15 minutes. Learn to enjoy your own company. When you stop treating solitude like a punishment, it becomes one of your greatest teachers. You begin hearing your own thoughts instead of everyone else's opinions. You notice what truly matters. You become less reactive, more intentional, more grounded. If this reflects the man you are choosing to become, comment, "My strength comes from within." Let those words be a promise that your principles will always matter more than popularity. Eventually, something changes inside you. You no longer fear being misunderstood. You no longer chase every invitation. You no longer need constant reassurance that you are enough, because you already know. The strongest men are not those surrounded by the largest crowds. They are the ones who can stand alone without abandoning themselves. And once you discover that kind of inner stability, you are finally prepared for the last Stoic habit. The habit that brings every lesson together into one unshakable way of living. Number 7, they refuse to become victims of circumstances. Life eventually gives every man a moment he never asked for. A business fails after years of effort. A relationship ends without warning. Someone you trusted walks away. Your health changes. Your plans collapse. Everything you carefully built seems to disappear at once. At that moment, two men can experience exactly the same event and leave with completely different lives. One spends years asking, "Why did this happen to me?" The other quietly asks, "What can this teach me?" That single difference changes everything. Most people believe strength is measured by how little suffering a person experiences. The Stoics believed the opposite. Strength is measured by what suffering turns you into. Imagine two pieces of clay placed beneath the same rainstorm. One slowly dissolves until nothing recognizable remains. The other is shaped by patient hands into a beautiful sculpture while the rain continues to fall around it. The storm is identical. The outcome is not. Circumstances never possess the final word. Character does. No Stoic demonstrated this more clearly than Marcus Aurelius. Throughout his reign, he faced devastating wars, deadly plagues, political betrayal, and the constant burden of leading an empire under immense pressure. Yet when he wrote in his private journal, he rarely focused on blaming fate. Instead, he continually reminded himself that every hardship presented another opportunity to practice courage, patience, justice, and wisdom. He understood that adversity was not interrupting his philosophy. Adversity was the place where philosophy proved itself. That lesson remains just as powerful today. Most of us spend enormous amounts of energy wishing life were different. We wish difficult people were easier. We wish success arrived faster. We wish pain never visited our families. We wish uncertainty would finally disappear. But reality has never promised any of those things. What it does offer is something far more valuable. A chance to decide who you become in response. The next time life disappoints you, resist asking whether the situation is fair. Ask whether your response reflects the man you want to become. Stand up anyway. Keep your routines. Protect your integrity. Continue treating people with respect. Continue moving forward one decision at a time. Every time you refuse to surrender your character to your circumstances, you become a little stronger than the day before. Eventually, something remarkable happens. Problems stop defining your identity. Failures stop becoming permanent labels. Pain stops convincing you that your future has already been decided. Instead, every challenge becomes another opportunity to strengthen the habits you have built throughout this journey. This is what truly separates strong men from everyone else. Not the absence of hardship, not perfect confidence, not extraordinary talent, but the quiet decision to remain faithful to their principles, regardless of what life places in front of them. Because circumstances may shape your environment, they should never be allowed to shape your character. And once you understand that truth, you are ready to see how all 7 Stoic habits come together into one powerful way of living. Every strong man eventually discovers the same truth. Strength is never built in one extraordinary moment. It is built through ordinary decisions repeated long after the excitement disappears. That is why the 7 habits you have learned today matter so much. They are not 7 separate techniques. They are 7 expressions of the same principle. Master yourself before trying to master your circumstances. Everything begins there. When you control your first reaction, you stop allowing emotions to dictate your life. When you keep promises to yourself, you build trust where it matters most. When you willingly embrace discomfort, you become stronger than the challenges waiting ahead. When you stop living for other people's approval, your decisions become your own again. When you choose discipline over mood, consistency replaces excuses. When you become comfortable standing alone, your principles become stronger than your desire to belong. And when you refuse to become a victim of your circumstances, you discover a freedom that no external event can ever take away. Notice what connects every one of these habits. None of them require perfect luck. None of them require extraordinary talent. None of them depend on your background, your income, your appearance, or the opinions of other people. Every one of them is available the moment you decide to practice it. That is why Stoicism has remained relevant for nearly 2,000 years. Empires have risen and fallen. Technology has transformed the world. Society has changed in countless ways. Yet the greatest battle is still fought in exactly the same place, within the human mind. Imagine an old lighthouse standing on a rocky coastline. Year after year, storms crash against it. The waves never stop. The wind never asks permission. Some storms are small. Others are violent enough to shake the entire structure. Yet every morning, when the darkness begins to disappear, the lighthouse is still standing. Not because the storms became weaker, because its foundation was built deeper than the waves could reach. That is the man Stoicism asks you to become. Not someone who avoids storms, someone whose foundation is deeper than them. There will still be difficult mornings. People will still disappoint you. Plans will still fail. Loss will still find you. Life will continue to test your patience, your courage, your discipline, and your character. But each time it does, you now have a choice. You can react the way you always have, or you can remember these 7 habits. Pause before reacting. Honor your own word. Choose discomfort over stagnation. Protect your mind from unnecessary opinions. Act according to discipline instead of emotion. Stand confidently even when you stand alone. And let your character, not your circumstances, determine who you become. Do that consistently for months, then for years. One day, people will say that you seem calm under pressure. They will say you are disciplined, resilient, unshakable. What they will never see are the thousands of invisible choices that created that strength. Because true strength is almost always built in private before it is ever recognized in public. That is the Stoic way, not chasing admiration, not proving yourself to the world, but becoming someone whose peace, discipline, and integrity no longer depend on the world at all. Remember, no one suddenly wakes up as a strong man. Strength is accumulated. One calm response, one kept promise, one uncomfortable decision, one disciplined morning, one moment of choosing principles over popularity. These moments rarely attract attention. No one applauds them. No one posts them online. Yet they quietly reshape your identity from the inside out. Months later, your confidence feels different. Years later, your entire life looks different. Not because fortune favored you more than everyone else, but because every small Stoic decision became another brick in the foundation of your character. That is the hidden power of these habits. Individually, they seem ordinary. Practiced consistently, they become extraordinary. Eventually, you stop trying to appear strong. You simply become the kind of man who is. If you want to continue building that kind of inner strength, subscribe and join us for the next step of this journey. And before you go, I'd like to hear from you. Which of these 7 habits do you believe will have the biggest impact on your life? And which one will you begin practicing today? Sometimes one honest commitment is all it takes to begin becoming the man you were always capable of becoming.